I'm Robert Bierman, the director of Vampire's Kiss.
I'm Nicolas Cage, and I play Peter Lowe in Vampire's Kiss.
Well, Nick and I haven't met really properly since we made this movie, which is getting on for 11 years ago now. So this is the one thing I want to ask you, number one, is when we first met, do you remember?
It was a while back. Did we met? Didn't we have like lunch or something at was it the Polo Lounge?
That's right. We met at the Polo Lounge for drinks, and we got on great. And the next week you were off the picture.
I don't remember that now. Yeah. Wait a minute. Yes, I was getting a lot of outside pressure from my agent and other people that were representing me that this was not a good move after Moonstruck to make a movie of this nature with vampire fangs and going off like that. So I responded to the pressure and I broke. But then I realized it was a mistake, and I called you and I said, would you have me back? After Judd Nelson, and then he didn't do it.
So we had everything. We had a script, we had the budget, we had the star, and then we had nothing. And we spent a month going insane. Judd Nelson, which I'm glad you remembered, because the guy was terrific, but he got a different offer. And you rang up, and I remember the night you rang up, and I said, oh, hi, Nick, and the producers were looking at me going, who is it? And I said, it's Nick. And you said, will you have me back? And I said, I'll tell you what, Nick, I'll call you tomorrow and let you know.
Okay.
And they said to me, why did you do that? I said, we just got to have Nick on this picture without any shadow of doubt, and tomorrow he'll really want to do it even more.
Well, I can also understand where you might be a little miffed at me, too, because that was not the greatest thing to do, to just say I was in and then not be in. But it was a brave role to play, and it was scary, to dive into something like that. But I'm glad I did it, and it emerges as one of my favorite performances.
Well, I can't tell you, that phone call from you was the best news we ever had. And it was, once you came back on board, I think we got the film together in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So we just hung around, and then we cast the film, and we got this wonderful cast and everybody with it. When you said, okay, let's go.
No, that's not true, really. I knew I was going to delay waking her up for as long as possible.
What was it you really wanted?
I wanted her, same as always. I wanted her to disappear.
So, do you remember being in this office with Elizabeth Ashley here?
Yes, I do. I really loved working with her, and she's from Baton Rouge, and she has this tremendous voice, and I felt like she got it. She got what we were trying to do together. She was very responsive to the scenes that we were playing, and I think she had a lot of faith in us.
You had to understand what this movie was about to really be part of it, and I think most of the people who were in it really did understand the movie. I'm not sure that Hemdale, the people who made it, really understood what we were doing.
Well, that's true, and I think part of the way I figured that out was because they cut it down dramatically. I felt like some of my best work had just been lost for forever, which is why I really wanted us to have an opportunity to put it back and see the movie in an extended version. I don't think they got it the way we did, but when I look at the picture now, I genuinely feel that it was ahead of its time. It was unique, and if it had come out today, it would be more of the norm of what people are accustomed to seeing. But back then, it was new and shocking, and I don't know how people responded to it.
Yeah, it was a mixture of very dark comedy and using obviously a vampire theme, and a story about people in a city that was, and this was 87, and New York was still a pretty riotous, dangerous city. And just in fact, when we were shooting this bit, I don't know if you remember, this was a non-union picture, and there was some union film guys who were trying to stop us making the picture, and they were all just out of shot there with foghorns, trying to shut the picture down. And we got through that by sending out some cops to stop them.
Well, I remember Well, we were talking earlier about my wardrobe here, which I'm noticing now for the first time. I haven't seen this movie in many, many years. And it was your idea to dress me in Paul Smith suits. And we were just discussing earlier that it makes the movie not seem dated because they're classic suits, and they would still be cogent today. The movie holds up in terms of not being dated, and I think that people might wonder what that voice is I'm using, and I suppose I should just. I mean, I'm glad to just. Normally, I don't like to let the secrets out, but I want to here because I want people to see this movie and rediscover it. But the voice was like in some ways, it was my father. Because he was a professor of comparative literature, and he made a decision at some point to speak with distinction. And to me, it always sounded absurd, although now I understand. But it used to be like this very continental sound, which I thought a literary agent would adopt to try to be impressive to people.
which Peter Lowe uses, and if you look at it, he turns it on and he turns it off when he thinks he needs to be, as it were, more continental. And I remember the first day's rushes, the producers ran up to me and they said, "Bob, it looks great, but what's Nick doing? Why is he talking like that? What's wrong with him?" I said, no, this is cool. Actually, I didn't even notice that there was an accent, to be honest with you. And then as it went on, the accent changed with the scenes, and the performance in the film is really extraordinary. I have watched this. I know you haven't watched it since we made it. I watched it last week, and I was struck by how entertaining the performance is, because it's a really tough movie to keep going, and it really is an interesting performance. Do you know who this girl is?
Casey Lemons, who is now a fine director.
She's a wonderful director, and she was a lovely lady, and my God, she really, went for it in a big way. I mean, she got it.
Yeah. I suppose we should talk about
the famous bat.
How we got into an altercation one day, because it was very important to me that the bat was a real bat, and I didn't want this remote control bat, and I kind of went off my rocker a little bit. I guess at this time I was still very much a method actor, and I would like to live my parts, and so I wasn't the most pleasant person to be around while shooting this film, and I thought that if the bat didn't come off real, then that would reduce the level of believability that this man was actually going insane. But the bat looks fabulous.
Well, the guy who made the bat actually made all the stuff for Star Wars. He did all the models for Star Wars. So we did get the best guy.
Yeah.
But the bat did break on the way over from England. I don't know if you know, it was an injured bat. It had to have some plaster work done to it to keep it together. And he got it out of the box and it was all shattered because on the plane for some reason they broke it.
Yeah.
And I remember you'd sent your assistant out to Central Park to find a bat one night.
Yeah, I was pretty nuts about getting a real bat, which of course was going to cause all sorts of problems with the animal rights people, which later became a problem with we'll talk later about that, but the bug. But
they were also, I think I managed to persuade you by telling you that if you'd got bitten by the bat, you'd die.
You'd get raped. Yeah.
So forgetting it would have been impossible to shoot it and the whole thing would have been, but I just wanted to get a simple, logical thing, and I think when I said, well, one bite from that and you're a dead man, I think you kind of backed off on that.
Yeah, well, there was no way to control a bat. I mean, I don't know what was the matter with me. I don't know how old I was here. I was 87, so I was just really, in my very early 20s and very much, very, very serious about the craft and willing to, at all costs, try to create I guess in my own mind, I had this idea that there could be a new expression in acting. And I was weaned, oddly enough, on vampire, German expressionistic films like Nosferatu and Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. And I wanted to be able to use that kind of silent film style of acting, which shockingly enough, you allowed me to do and allowed me to go there, and you never held me back, which was kind of amazing. I don't think any other director would have let his actor go there, and I don't even know if I could ever do it now or again. It seems like a preserved moment in time in both our careers where I don't know that I could ever duplicate it.
You know, this film was, when I think about this film, it was so naive the way we made it. I think both of us now have learned so much and made so many movies and shot so many things. We could never make a movie like this with this incredible naivety. Because, to be honest with you, Nick, when we made this film, it was complete chaos from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
But the chaos was incredibly creative. And when you look at the movie, it looks very controlled and it looks as if it's all incredibly beautifully worked out. But here was in New York with a bunch of people who'd never, I'd never made a movie before, a feature-length movie. My producers had never made a feature-length movie before. You'd made a few. The only person who'd made a movie, and he'd never made it as a DOP, was the DOP. And this was his first movie as well, Stefan Chapsky, who went on to do Edward Scissorhand.
And worked with Burton on Batman as well.
Absolutely. So we only had one guy who actually knew how to make a movie. And I think that visually he did a great job with me. But just talking about your performance, what I hope I did here is I did let you do the things that you wanted to do, but I also tried to keep it subtle at the same time.
Yes.
So you got this mixture of subtlety and naturalism mixed with the other stuff, which is, as you said, the expressionistic. And I like those two things to move together.
Yeah.
And when you watch the movie, you see there is this wonderful complexity in the character which keeps it going.
Yes.
Also, nobody really understands what this movie is about.
Which is probably good.
It's good because I understand most of what it's about, and I've got interpretations of what I think some of the things are about, but I wonder if I don't know if we ever really discussed it. We didn't.
Well, I'm a big believer in the ambiguous and letting it be about whatever people want it to be about, but I always saw the movie as a story of a man whose loneliness and inability to find love literally drives him insane we know that he's in therapy, he's got some problems, he's obviously an eccentric, he's got a sadistic streak in him at work, and he's got problems. But also what's interesting is there was of a time and a place. I very much wanted to get the place of New York. I thought it was part of his phobias and of his problems. And if you look at the movie, I tried to place it so you're always seeing New York everywhere. There's the depth of the streets. I remember that.
And I wanted it to be like it was an extension of his mind. And I know that all sounds a bit kind of airy-fairy, but it does help to extend the movie beyond just a one-dimensional plane.
I think that comes through, and I remember you very specifically telling me about that when we were shooting it, and I thought, what an inspired idea. Because if you're right, the city's always behind him. You always see him see the city through the window.
It's always with him. You see, she doesn't have the city, but he's always there. It's like this many, many, many layers. And later on, when we see him going more insane, I use the city more and more. We'll come to some scenes where he goes a bit crazy in the office, and you see here where he's less crazy. The background is soft.
Right.
But as he gets more crazy, I bring the background in, and it's sort of like the city is driving him crazy as part of the craziness.
Oh, that's a very cool idea.
So let's hope that I think I did it consciously, or maybe I'm just making it up now to make it seem like it's...
No, I remember when you said that. I remember when you gave me that idea on the set. You were telling me that you were thinking about that. The thing that I was going to say is that I always felt that he was imagining that he was a vampire and he lost his mind.
Absolutely. I think it was more of a metaphor than a reality, and all the elements were metaphorical, which is why I wanted to keep some sort of realism in it,
right?
And not make it all fantasy, so that there was an ambiguity between what was really going on. Is he real? Does he think he's a real vampire, or is it just an expression of his craziness? I hope that comes across. What's very interesting is that this this stuff between you and Maria Conchita Alonso, who is wonderful, isn't she?
Yes, absolutely.
Was so entertaining, even though it's the most horrible, horrible thing that a man does to a woman. There's some strange entertaining value. And I remember when we got all the cards back from the first viewing, everybody loved you being wicked to her.
Well, there's a strange... I mean, that's really where the comedy aspect comes in, I think. The dark comedy aspect is in this sort of sadistic wickedness that the way he treats his secretary is just so extreme that you can't help but laugh. And you know that it's out there, though. I mean, there are people that behave that way with people who they work with. Now, this whole thing was like the arrogance, wanting to show his arrogance and, you know, like dressing and wearing the tie and making that absurd expression while looking in the mirror. You know, like, he just thinks he's hot shit, you know?
And what is interesting is that New York was a very edgy city. There was a lot of crime. There was a lot of bad stuff going down there. And when we were shooting this particular scene, there was a dead body in this place the morning that we shot, and I had to cart out a dead body before we went into this place.
It's true, and it's amazing. This is pre-Giuliani, and the city is completely different now. Well, when I was doing Bringing Out the Dead, I couldn't find anything out there. Like, I'd ride in the ambulance, and there was no crime. There's more crime here in L.A. But in those days, this was really a tough town. There's my brother.
We couldn't afford a lot of action. Now, here we are with Jennifer.
Yeah.
Now, do you remember anything about Jennifer?
Oh, yeah. I remember her being very interested in photography, and I remember I went to a museum with her, and we looked at photographs together, and very, very intelligent woman, gorgeous, and very much in love with her husband.
I cast her on Monday, and she started shooting on Tuesday.
Wow.
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Okay, what had happened was that we had cast this up-and-coming actress who was, you know, the hot new actress who I actually can't remember who she was. And on Friday, when we were about to shoot on Monday, she pulled out. She was about to get married, and her husband-to-be said, "I'm not having you in bed with Nic Cage." And that was it. She was out.
Oh, man.
We started shooting Monday. On Monday night, I met Jennifer. I asked her if she wanted to do the movie. She said yes. And on Tuesday morning, she was on set.
Wow. I did not know about that.
That was a close call. But I do remember having a nightmare before that day.
You had a lot of trials by fire on this movie.
Do you remember what my nightmare was?
On this day?
On the day she came on the set. It wasn't this particular what we're doing now, but when she came on the set.
What was it?
Well, I said to you, Nick, I've cast someone, and I don't know. I have a feeling that it's not going to be 100% great with you. I said, it's Jennifer Beals. He went, oh. And I said, I had a dream about us, and I dreamt I told you, and in my dream, you stuck 2 needles in both my eyes because you weren't happy about the casting. And you went, no, it's really not that bad at all. Yeah. And in a funny way, I think there was a real kind of thing between you two, because there was a kind of love-hate relationship on set, if I remember rightly.
Probably. I really don't know where, again, I don't know where my head was at when I was making this movie. I know that I had just done Moonstruck, which at the time I was not happy with. Now I love the movie. I'm mature enough to understand it now. But at the time I felt it was a little too soft. And I was into like punk rock, even though I'm singing Stravinsky here. By
the way, do you know how much that cost us?
Well, isn't it? It wasn't public domain.
It wasn't. It was the most expensive piece of post-production in the whole film.
I am sorry. I thought it was public domain.
No. We nearly got sued by the Stravinsky estate on that.
Because I tried recently to get a Stravinsky piece, and I've discovered that it's not public domain, but... It
sounds good, but the trouble was you did it so well, it's recognizable. We couldn't fake it and they wanted to listen to it, and they checked it, and they said, no, this is definitely Stravinsky. Was it Firebird or something?
It was Petrushka.
Petrushka, yeah. And that was it. For us on this movie, as you know, this was the cheapest movie ever made in the history of movies.
Well, do you like it?
Gotta take a piss.
Here we go. I always thought it was interesting that like Casey and Jennifer had a similar look, and which I think you did intentionally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not.
No?
Just pure luck.
Really?
Well, I don't know if you remember. I said to you, I'm talking to Jennifer Jason Leigh about this part.
Really?
Yeah. And things didn't work out with her. She was about, half your size, and it would have been, it wouldn't have worked out. So he dumps on this girl big time. It's another sort of wonderful quality about Peter Leigh. He's got so many disgusting qualities, this guy.
That's just like, that is a face of disgust.
But it's also very modern.
Yeah.
Look at him.
Well, I love his response to this. Every guy has felt like this at some point or another.
These guys walking here were just regular people. They didn't know what was going on. They thought, what is this girl doing? This is very odd.
This is my favorite line.
Yeah, well, fuck you too.
I don't know. I just...
Now, this scene here was, for some reason, the studio cut this scene out. It's a great scene. And this never appeared in the movie.
Oh, I have to watch this.
Yeah.
Did you hurt yourself?
It's funny as well.
Just cut myself shaving.
Oh. Well, Peter, why don't we begin where we left off last week? You started to tell me about this strange feeling you had when this bat flew through the window of your apartment.
Huh?
The feeling of exultation that you experienced.
See, he doesn't have a funny accent when he's talking to her, does he?
No.
It's only when he's in
his mode.
when he's working.
I don't really know what you're talking about. I don't remember.
Well, you were very sure about it last weekend. It made a very strong impression.
I don't know why they cut the scene. I think sometimes, producers or exec producers just need to cut. And I was shooting another picture when this was ready to go out, and they were sending me videotapes to my hotel where I was filming, and I kept fighting and fighting and fighting, and I fought for a week to keep this in, and in the end they just said, we want it out, and it's out. And that was, what could I do? I was on the other side of the world fighting with them.
Yeah.
But I kept much more in than they wanted out.
I'm really happy to see this restored.
No.
For me, this was exactly what I needed to do, was to blow it out, really. I mean, it was like, some people have referred to this as sort of a punk rock movie, because it isn't trying to be...
I love this scene.
Yeah.
Well, what is that?
Well, it was... Well, it was like this weird, I guess like a tick that he had whenever he got alarmed.
This is so mean, this scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
And she is just, devastated by him.
Is this the Am I Getting Through to You, Alva?
This is the last part of the scene as I'm getting through, which has got this mad shot in it.
Well, that was my high school teacher named Andy Grenier in acting class. One day was just like putting me down in front of everybody, and I got up and I left. He's a good guy and all, but I mean at the time I was something of a hothead. And I got up and I left, and he looked at me and he went, "Coppola," and he pointed at me and he went, "You're not," and he put his head back like that. He goes, "You're not big enough or bad enough to pull that crap with me." And it just left this indelible impression in my mind, and so that became, "Alva, am I getting through to you, Alva?" With the finger and looking away.
And somehow, just the way the camera was, because I don't think we rehearsed it, so I didn't actually know what you were going to do, and I just kind of put the camera there and set up a shot and I thought, well, I'll catch whatever you do. And it wasn't quite lit properly. So when you turn your head round, which we'll see, it gets a little bit overexposed, and it makes you look even crazier.
Yeah.
Because this is all beautifully, everything here is all nicely done. But as he gets nuttier, by sheer default, he puts his head into an overexposed lighting position and kind of looks a bit wilder.
What's funny about it is, like, on the telephone, the guy's obviously okay with everything, and he's still acting like, all right, I'm sorry, it's, this is really a problem.
Here it comes.
Am I getting through to you? Over!
You see how you got too much light on you, and you're all exposed, your nose is overexposed, everything is like weird, and then all of a sudden it becomes normal again.
Yeah.
And that was just a strange fluke.
Well, it worked. I love also the way you design the set here. I love that lamp. I mean, you're right. The movie isn't dated.
Do you know, everybody who worked on this movie wanted to do this movie for more than a reason of just doing a movie. Yeah. They were all new, and they were all fresh. Now, in this, I want to point out see the guy here is taking the order? That's the writer. That's Joe Minion, the writer.
Yeah.
And just sitting behind in a purple, you'll see in a purple thing on the right. That's one of the producers.
Is that Barbara?
Barbara, not the girl in pink, but you'll see sitting next to the prop man. This is how cheap it was.
Yeah. Wow.
Here she is, overacting. Look at her. The producer overacts, turns, does terrible, awful. Sorry, Barbara, but I love you. And this little guy here, everybody in this is weird. This little guy, everybody I cast kind of lots of weird little characters, but each one is a nugget. Now, this scene coming up next, I think this is where he goes into a hotel and these people are dancing. I don't know what this is about. I don't know what I was doing. I haven't got a clue.
I love that, though.
There was a lot of street theatre in New York, and this whole scene is like, there's weird stuff going on, all these people. It's like, I think I decided it was a kind of brothel, and these were all hookers and guys coming out here.
I remember
I love it. It's weird. This is such a weird shot. This guy, I don't know what it's about.
I love it too, and the angle is as you say, it is bizarre. But there's something tonally about it that reminds me of The Tenant by Polanski a little bit. And I was so excited about it. And I was talking to him at one point. I sent this movie to him to watch, but I never heard anything back.
Well, he shot a vampire movie. You remember years and years ago?
The Fearless Vampire Killers, or
no, it was a comedy
called
Dance of the Vampires.
Oh, I remember one that was very theatrical with like the garlic. Who was his wife?
Alfie Bass was in it. He was an English actor. It was a long time ago, but it wasn't. I think he probably didn't do such a good job as us.
I'm not seeing anything quite like this.
There was some illness. Listen, I feel funny talking on the phone about this.
Better be a hell of a good reason.
Let's meet, can you?
See, Casey had hardly done anything when she was. I think Elizabeth was probably the most experienced actress.
Definitely.
And Maria Conchita Alonso had just been in a film called Colours, which we saw, and she was pretty experienced as well. But most of us, we were fresh.
Yeah, I had done Birdie, and I had done Valley Girl, and I had done Moonstruck. And
but sometimes, when you make a movie, the more you know, the less instinctive it is.
Yeah.
And I think this was done completely on instinct.
I think so too. And
very ambitious. I mean, shooting in New York in those days was very, very difficult. I was used to shooting in big cities because I'd shot a lot in London. So it didn't faze me at all. But a lot of people had trouble shooting in New York and hated doing it. But I loved it.
There's more of that arrogance.
And eating pistachio. There was a pistachio nut thing.
Well, it was sort of like this idea of going up the food chain. You begin with the pistachio from nut to cockroach to pigeon to human.
See, I also wanted you to look kind of glamorous, and you do, and it's a great mixture because later on you become insane and very unglamorous. And I like the two different Peter Lowe's.
Yes.
And, quite a seductive-looking guy here.
Yeah, and then he becomes grotesque.
Absolutely, but you need this this look, because it's very much the yuppie 80s look.
Yes.
A very successful, young guy living in New York.
Exactly.
And this was a great location. Do you remember? Everything in this film is a location. There are no sets.
Yeah, I love this location. I love the score, too. I remember I asked for a copy of the score, and this person is very talented. Have you worked with him since?
Yes, he did my first ever film. He's done nearly everything I've done. There's a guy called Colin Towns. Yeah. And in fact, we scored this, we did this in the Czech Republic. Not the Czech Republic, we did it in, we did it in the Czech Republic when it was still communist. So it's a communist orchestra.
Really,
but it adds, there are effects that are musical effects. You know what I mean? He uses the strings to give effects.
Yes.
And adds a certain level to it, which I think, again, we did it all with real instruments. It's a 75-piece orchestra we have on this, which we got very cheap.
And you can hear it.
I mean, they are the official state orchestra. But in those days, communist orchestras were like $1 a day for a player.
Wow. It's some of these moves, without mentioning names, are direct rip-offs from my certain family members, which goes to show you where I came from. But in any event, I put a lot of that in there. This is interesting.
This is a very surreal situation, and when I look at it, it harps back that I always think that when you're making a movie, you tend to make the movie that influenced you most when you first wanted to make movies.
Yeah.
And the movie that influenced me most was a film, a Cocteau film. I don't know if you know any of his films.
Oh, I love Jean Cocteau.
Oh, well, Jean Cocteau made a marvelous film called Orphée.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just remaking Orphée here.
Oh, yeah. That was an amazing film. It was very bizarre, going through the radio or something.
That's right, yeah, and mirrors.
I don't know, this expression on my face is just absurd. I remember at this time being very influenced by Marlon Brando's performance in Reflections in a Golden Eye.
Oh, right.
And do you remember us ever talking about that?
No.
I would often go off and from one of my tangents and just start quoting lines from that film. I believe that was a Carson McCullers, John Huston movie. I'm not totally sure. But in any event, he freaks out in that movie in two places where I think I directly borrowed or stole some of his moves.
Now, this is interesting because the way I did this, and I don't know if you ever thought the same thing, is that when he's making love to her, having sex with her, she's not really there. It's all a fantasy. That's why he's in his T-shirt.
Yeah.
And, it's just happening in his head. And I love this. I love this. This idea of him looking at this empty...
Yeah, I remember you were excited about that when we were doing it. You were like, you're looking in the blotter, just staring at it.
I remember seeing this with an audience. This scene plays very well because this is where we go to the other extreme.
Yeah, and this is what I was wondering what you must have thought on that day when I did. You were the one that said jump up on the desk.
I think I did. And it's kind of so unexpected. Like,
I mean, he's like Spider-Man all of a sudden.
And then it goes, without me really saying it, but it kind of goes into John Cleese here with the walk and stuff. It's sort of...
Oh, I love John Cleese. Yeah. He's one of my favorites.
But there's quite a physical stuff going on here.
Yeah.
What the hell is he doing in here?
I remember all the supporting players are just top-notch. She cracks me up, that woman in there.
She's just brilliant.
What the fuck is going on?
I mean, she says fuck better than anybody I've ever heard.
Oh, yeah.
And this is where I had to make a point where I thought this is where he's going nuts.
Yeah.
And that beginning of that scene when he's looking at the blotter, that's when and the appearance changes. You see from the slick guy, all of a sudden your appearance... So because we shot this out of order,
yes,
I had to tell the makeup people when you're going nuts, when you're not going nuts, so they could make you slick and handsome and then allow you to go, see how your hair's all changed? So it was very important for them and for us to try and get a point of him cracking.
Yeah, I think that comes through really well.
But for you, it must have been very complicated as we shot it so much out of order, knowing where to be in your head.
I always thought of film acting as like puzzle making. It's always going to be out of sequence, and so it's just putting pieces of the puzzle together and trying to figure out how to gradate your performance, which you helped me with immensely. But this is just so dark.
And also what is interesting about a performance is because you are doing these different levels, there's a danger you can repeat yourself.
Right.
And you can keep doing the same tricks. And what is great when I looked at it again is it's always different. There's never the same thing happening.
Yeah.
Particularly with a dark comedy performance, it's very important to keep it fresh.
Yes. I mean, this is a study in overcompensating. You know how people do that, or they just laugh a little too hard.
Yes, that's right.
And
or they're too friendly.
Yeah, they got something to hide.
Now, this was a very interesting day here. I don't know if you remember this day with the note.
Well, no, I don't remember what transpired on this day, but I remember this was one of those things where I was doing this sort of a Reflections in a Golden Eye freak out.
That's right. I think what happened was that I had a lot of trouble doing this shot, and I needed some help from you, and you refused to help me on the shot.
What did I do?
We didn't do anything.
Well, it's one of my favorite moments.
So it took me about 10 times longer to shoot it, because all I said to you was like, do you mind just stepping a half a pace to the left as you read the note? And you said, I'm not moving. This I have to keep still. So that was the day before the cockroach, which I'll come to later.
Yeah.
Now, what we did, see this? That's all real. You see that? None of this is special effects.
Right.
All the furniture is real. All the glass in the furniture is real. How I let you do this, I do not know.
You couldn't do it again. I mean, that's weird.
And do you know what happened? We had 2 cameras on this, and the second camera broke. We only have one shot. This is the only shot. Look at this. That's plate glass. It's all real. I mean, actors throwing around real plate glass. This is how naive we were when we made this movie.
But you can't duplicate that. I mean, it
that
shows
was
you
real. Even that was real glass. It's very hard to break this glass.
Yeah. No, I was off my rocker.
Well, I think we, were doing a job, and we thought we were doing it the right way because we were just doing it for, we just let it go and did it for real. And like it's the real subway train we hired. It's hard to get on a subway train.
I feel that the fact that all that furniture was real just helped me so much as an actor to feel connected, I knew I had to freak out that day, so whenever I had like big scenes, I guess I would get more tense.
Do you remember I was talking to you about the New York in the background?
Yes.
Well, this scene is where we obviously start seeing you going a bit crazy.
Yeah.
And you see the difference in the look now that the city has become part of you. It's it's within the frame with you, and it's the two things are together. In fact, I used the Empire State Building as a symbol.
Yeah, and so the city is a major character in the film.
Well, it's just there's this contrast.
This is a great scene. I don't know if I think we rehearsed it, but I said, look, I don't want to do it much because I'm going to do it in one shot and just go for it. So I don't even think you rehearsed this.
No, I don't recall that we did rehearse it.
I think I knew the moves. I said, let's do that. We got the moves, so we knew where to point the camera, but we never rehearsed it as a scene.
I would just rehearse alone in my hotel room.
Do you remember your hotel room?
Yeah, it was in the Mayflower.
That's right. Do you remember you brought your cat?
Yes, my cat Lewis, yeah.
Which wrecked the whole place.
I guess so, yeah.
I remember going up there and I thought, Jesus, what is Nic doing here? Because it was completely wrecked, but it was the cat had pulled everything apart.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't allow room service in to clean up.
I know. I was very attached to my cat.
You also had a vampire bat there. Did you remember you had the skeleton of a vampire?
Oh, yeah.
Which was great. I was very impressed with that.
Yeah, I had that. I think I gave that to somebody later.
Yes, misfiled.
This whole alphabet sequence, I guess I don't know how Mick Jagger figures into this, but
there is a pose.
There's a pose that's very Jagger-esque, and all culminated up to that, I guess.
But this is, it's like you do this scene, and we're not even halfway through the film. Is how do you top this? And it's about the sequences going further and further.
Yeah, because if we were to do this again today, people would say, well, you can't go that extreme in the film. Where do you go from there, as you're saying? But here we go.
B, C, D, E, F, G.
But look at those wonderful hands there.
Well, it actually is extremely choreographed. I mean, every one of those moves was thought out in my hotel room with my cat. Here we go. Here comes Jagger.
I never misspelled anything!
Not that. Wait a minute.
Not once, not one time!
Yeah, there we go.
When Elizabeth was doing this shot with you, she didn't know what you were going to do.
She did not know.
No.
Yeah, and you liked it that way because she was more like shocked.
She was. And because she was a wild thing in her youth, so she was cool about this.
She could take anything, and give it right back.
It's kind of bright in here, isn't it?
Wow.
I love this sequence.
Total just prick.
But also office politics are, a great form of entertainment. And this great office, it's this little bubble of an office where all these people are looking at this crazy. You have crazy guys like this in offices.
Dropping the rubber duck off her desk and putting it in the trash can. I mean...
Do you remember the whole thing with dark glasses, with those dark glasses?
I love those glasses. I wish I had them now.
Well, we had a scene to shoot where you buy the glasses. And we had this scene in the film, and we never shot it. So they carried the props around with them everywhere, with the tray and everything, and we had an actor standing by to sell them to you. And it wasn't until I left the movie and went to catch my plane, I was sitting in the airport, and I was being bugged by people in the airport, and some people came up trying to sell me stuff, and somebody tried to sell me dark glasses. And what happened was my whole crew came to the airport to say goodbye, and they were dressed up as the dark glasses salesman.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Wow.
This was the first thing we shot, wasn't it? It was our first day?
It was pretty near the first day. You're absolutely right. I mean, we went into it really in a big scene. But I believe in that. I don't like messing around. I like to get into something.
Yeah, I agree. I do too. I think you get right into it and then you know where you're at.
So you look at the first day's rushes and you really do know whether you're doing the right movie or not.
Yeah, I remember when we did that, I went to the first day of rushes and I didn't go back very often, or did I?
You didn't. I think one, you were exhausted.
Yeah, but I remember once I went to rushes with you and I sat right next to you and you looked at me and went, do you have to sit right next to me?
It's a very interesting thing. In England, actors never come to rushes.
Yeah.
Never. And my experience of working in America is that I've had a lot of actors at rushes, and I personally don't think it's a great thing to do. Just personally, certain actors do think it's good for them. But one of the things that is always hard to explain is that half or three-quarters of what you're going to watch is not going to be in the film.
Well, I understand that, and I don't really go to dailies that much. Usually I'll look at it on the monitor when you can really get an idea or the director can help you point something out. And that's where it helps. But I can understand what you're saying.
There is no one else.
This is, I don't know, my whole motivation here was to try to see how big I could get my eyes, just to freak her out.
It's just amazing how they work, those eyes. It's just amazing. Also, your hair has gone a bit weird as well. It's gone big on the side.
Yeah.
So the whole profile, the whole look of it is just extraordinary.
It really almost looks like Dwight Fry in the original Dracula.
But as we were talking before, this is way ahead of its time, this kind of look.
Yes.
Because it's like, we were talking about Tim Burton, and that kind of dark humor came in years after this, didn't it?
Yes, I think so, and I...
Look at that hair and the eyes and the whole thing is...
And then it goes back to normal again.
And look at her reaction. She was very good, didn't you think?
She was amazing. She was, genuinely terrified there. There's no more problem then, is there?
Then there's no problem then. Is there?
Oh man, we made a twisted movie, Robert.
We did. I think we were just young.
Yeah, we were young and we both just.
Don't you want to use your gun, Alva?
It's like we just didn't care. You know, we just went ahead and we cared about the doing good work, but it was like we just didn't care what people thought. You know?
No, there was also because it was such a cheap movie, and I mean cheap. This movie cost under $2 million for everything, and it doesn't. It's beautifully made. It's beautifully lit. There's not one penny. My producers were fantastic.
I love that shot. Sorry to interrupt.
My producer gave me everything. I said, I need a cherry picker to get up there. They got me a cherry picker. How my producers got everything for the money, I do not know.
It's amazing. Have you worked with them again?
I haven't worked with them again. I would really love to, but I haven't. We haven't had the opportunity. But, every item that is in this movie, they got me, and...
Yeah.
Including you.
Yeah.
And I know you did it for an amazing fee.
Well, you know what I did? I did it for, it was $40,000, and I took that money and I bought my first sports car with it, and I still have it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, now,
What did you buy?
I bought a 1967 427 Stingray Corvette.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and I still have it, and the car is still worth the same amount it was then. So I overpaid for it, but anyway... So I'll never sell that car. It was my Vampire's Kiss car.
I can read your mind, my love. I can see it in your actions. You can't get through the day without thinking about me.
Jennifer's performance is really unique too, because I feel like it gives people that want. First of all, it's a very unique looking vampire. I've never seen
a vampire. She is fantastic, isn't she?
It's really kind of sexy and urban.
But she's a bit animal. I think she's got a very animal look about her. Her body, her face.
Yeah. And it provides for those very many people in the audience who want to see a vampire film in a more classic sense. They get to enjoy her as that, the vampire with the fangs. And you're right there it was pretty animalistic.
But you see the way her shoulders are moving.
Yeah.
She's got incredible muscle tone. I mean, I remember looking at her body and thinking, wow, and here it is.
Yeah. And
Shrek.
And we put Shrek in together. We decided that having Peter Lowe observe this, would later inform his moves and mannerisms. We didn't want to go with the Bela Lugosi thing. We went with this. And then later, I brought it back with Willem Dafoe in Shadow of the Vampire.
Which I've seen, and I remember thinking, God, there it is in the movie.
Yeah.
How did you ever think of that?
You see, this is interesting. This is like this sad guy sitting by himself in a bedroom who's just had a sexual fantasy.
Yeah.
And this embodies that wonderful sexual fantasy, which a load of movies are about young guys having sexual fantasies. So it does, embody a lot of the usual themes that young people have. In
this shot, you really, really start to see how disturbed this character is. I mean, it's just...
Sweet dreams, my angel.
Without doing much, you could see he's obviously hallucinating and he's just not well.
What's interesting, the setup of this comes when they're in the disco later on. There's a marvellous scene where you're never sure whether she's really been there or not. And it works really well because you're in a very real public place where he tries to expose her.
Yeah, and she could have been just someone that he met.
Yeah.
And just he went off on some
hallucination
fantasy.
As people do. I mean, people do, and they fantasize about stars and they fantasize about people in the public eye.
Yes. Here was Beethoven's Ninth, right?
Thank God he's out of copyright.
I guess I had this idea that Peter would be a person that appreciated classical music to give him a little more... the sadness of the fact that he's obviously an intelligent man.
So I think we're coming up to one of our classic scenes here, which is the cockroach scene. Is that coming up now?
Yeah.
Or is it later?
That's coming up. The mirror burning the hand, where does that come from?
Well, vampires, you see, can't can't see themselves in mirrors. So,
but the idea of the mirror actually burning, it was like something from, oh, here we go. Well, yeah, so this, we were touching on this before. I was originally going to eat raw eggs or something, and I thought, no, we should make it a cockroach because I really want to do something that would shock the audience and something they would never forget. And I saw it as like a business decision because I've seen this movie in the theater. When people see that cockroach go in my mouth, it's like the bus blowing up in speed. I mean, people really react, and it's like worth $2 million in a special effect, and all I did was eat a bug. So it's good business. But you got the shot in the first take, but because of my not moving, right, and the other scene where I'm ripping up the napkin you've just explained, you made me do it again. So I ate 2 bugs, but you used the first take.
there is a bit of a subtext there. I always believe in, making sure we've really got it. And but I remember there was a payback for the day before.
Yeah, and you got me.
So this is the only reality in the movie, is this house here, which we had real trouble with. Both myself and the producers were allergic to cats.
Well, it's true.
So when I came up to your hotel room, I really was suffering. I don't know if you know that.
I seem to recall that, actually.
Well, this house was full of cats. They had hundreds of cats for some reason, and I could hardly breathe when I was shooting these scenes here. But that's, all part of the mystery of the movie.
Yeah.
Cry about it.
I know. Mommy, but,
Listen, young lady, you can't afford to lose that job. You get no more money from your father and me.
I just get another job.
I'm late.
This is very real, you're right. And I feel like I'm not really a part of this. It's like this is another through line in the film.
Well, I think to gain sympathy with her, which the audience really do, they really hate you for messing around, is fantastic. I love the audience siding with Maria against you. Because you're the demon. And look, once you get this...
Did you ever see a movie called... Well, Nicholson then went on to make a film called Wolf, where he played a man who was turning into a werewolf.
Oh, yeah.
I swear I think they watched this movie, those filmmakers. Because he's also in literature or something, and he starts having...
See your whole position there? It's got your back has gone up, and it's definitely got that look about it.
It's starting to become more Shrek-like.
Yeah, I love this. This is so scary. This woman seeing this madman at her window.
Yeah, in her brassiere.
what are you doing here?
What, Alba? I can hardly hear you through this window.
What are you doing here?
I heard you were sick. A terrible cold.
I'm calling the police.
The police? Alba! I'm here to call it police, man. Look! I just took a $20 taxi ride all the way up here so I can tell you I think it was wrong the way I treated you.
I'm here to call a truce, man.
Is that a gesture or what? Let's look!
What is this, the cure, this sort of vampire cure for a cold?
Yeah, just, what a thoughtful gesture to give her some soup.
I mean, when we're talking about Shrek, people may think we're talking about the cartoon movie. We're talking about, of course, Nosferatu, and Shrek being the character, the guy who played Nosferatu.
Yes, Max Schreck, who's a German actor.
Who used his whole body to make this strange person, didn't he?
Yes, and I am a fan of his acting, and then I discovered Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the silent version of that film, and I believe it was John Barrymore. And that was earlier than Nosferatu, and it occurred to me that Shrek, I think, was actually borrowing from Barrymore.
I had a feeling that was the case, and that's why I came all the way up here. Because it's my fault you feel that way.
Oh, no. I know you're trying to run an efficient office.
That may be, but some things just...
I remember we discussed this ad nauseum about these sunglasses.
Yeah.
Because I was always concerned that you were shutting out the audience by not seeing your eyes, but you insist on wearing them. You were absolutely right. It was right for this. And I think I hadn't got the full picture of the character sorted out, and I was concerned that we'd lose you. But we don't. It's, you've gone past the point of no return here.
I think that's always a good idea to have the eyes do the acting whenever possible. So I do understand what your point is at the time.
Yeah, he couldn't take the sun because
No.
in his mind he's turning into a vampire and
Yeah.
it's light. And the way he walks into the car, what is... This is actually such a... Look at him, go on, go. He's so obnoxious, isn't he?
He's just so full of himself and
the music here is all kind of euphoric and wonderful.
Yes.
And we all think, oh, great, they're going to get on here. He's really, really two-faced and quite... This is really nasty, this scene, isn't it?
It's pretty nasty. And one of my other favorite lines is the work's not going to go away, Alva. It just never goes away.
Yes.
I know I felt like that from time to time.
This is great. Here he goes.
My God, is the day you're gonna find that damned Heatherton cunt.
Her face is brilliant. See, I kept it in a two-shot because it was important to see both of you at the same time.
Absolutely. I don't know where the nausea came from. You know, where I started... I just... That was some idea that came out of, like...
Well, it adds another level to the scene.
Yeah.
The goddamn contract is somewhere in the goddamn fucking file!
See, this stuff was like... He was just... I don't know. Like you say, it adds another level.
But again, you see, when you got someone who's crazy, what he's doing, and I remember saying to you, when we were shooting this, they had just let all the crazy people out of the asylum in New York, and New York had this huge problem of having loads of crazy people wandering around. And I was watching these people in the streets, and they just did random stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I thought that using that as part of his character was very helpful, because it was very realistic of the time.
Yeah.
And it was a great shocker for New Yorkers that they had all these crazy people on the streets, which later on we see is just part of... Here's the wonderful... This is all gets very surreal later on. This.
I love that when you put the two of them in his hallucination.
Hey, don't take it so hard, sis. You got the time to...
I remember later on in the next scene where I got you to do it twice. I did 2 sets of dialogue, and you'll see it coming, because I was terrified that we'd have to post-sync out some of the dialogue here. But we never did.
That's my baby.
It's another terrific casting choice.
This guy, wonderful. Again, it's all the different ethnic people in New York. I loved to get that across in the movie.
You're a married man?
Emilio, remember this.
The gun.
Yeah.
Put that away. Are you crazy?
No, I'm not crazy. You gave it to me, right? Well, then what good is it if I can't use it?
What's good? Say it'll scare the shit out if any motherfucker comes close enough to spit on you. Look, you ain't even supposed to be carrying this thing around.
Please, I'm asking you, Emilio.
Yeah, this is the bit coming up, which was quite on the nose.
Where is that little cunt?
Oh, man. Yeah.
I don't know if we could ever do that today, could we?
I don't know that we could. And it comes back again later.
I know. And I said, listen, we've got to do something else. But we did something else, but I never used the alternative. I just thought, we've got to go all the way.
Yeah.
And I find it offensive, personally.
Yeah, it is. But I think it shows...
But he is offensive. You have to allow him to be an offensive character.
Yeah, I think so. In order for the movie to get truly disturbing and scary, and at this point, I mean, she's got a gun now. The fact that he uses that word, I think, makes the threat, the danger of it more real.
I love this city.
Yeah, you do.
But I love it because I think it's beautiful and very ugly at the same time. And I wanted to try and get across those two things, that when it's going for you, it's the greatest place to be in. But when it's not going for you, it's a very dark city to be in.
Well, it can be tremendously lonely,
yeah,
which is what he's suffering from.
And I think a huge number of young people have this problem of wanting to be successful, wanting to get their lives together, but are very, very lonely. and being by yourself can cause terrible problems.
Yeah, and I was rather alone while I was shooting this movie in New York.
I just shelled out almost $50 to get you back here, Alva. You better hope you make it worth it to me.
He's just getting progressively worse and worse as a person.
People found this wonderfully offensive,
Yeah.
and I think it's just terrific because it's very entertaining.
Yeah.
But it is offensive. It was considered, but again in the late 80s, very offensive to women, which we weren't trying to do at all. And I think we were accused of doing all sorts of horrible things, but
yeah,
we weren't. We didn't want to. I love this. This is where again I got the angle, so you kind of see, you don't see a reflection in the mirror.
I love this too.
And then all of a sudden there is a reflection, and the guy's completely crazy.
Yeah.
Where am I? Oh, Christ, where am I? I've become a vampire.
And once again, this is again more of my family, some people in my family.
Do they know this?
No, and I won't mention names.
I mean, there's mainstream comedy here as well.
Well, this is almost like Chaplin now,
Yeah.
with the wipeout. I mean, it gets almost like slapstick.
No, in fact, this coming up here, this was the first thing we shot. This is the first day, and this is the first day with Jennifer as well.
Yeah.
And she just turned up. Nobody knew what was going to happen. You didn't know. She didn't know. No, I didn't even know what would happen. I love this.
Oh, man.
What's that? I'm in a meeting now. But that's the great line. I'm in a meeting.
Yeah. I don't know what that was.
This was a great first day here. I don't know how we knew what we were doing here.
Was this our first day?
It was the first day. Maybe it was first or second. I know we started in this office, and it was the first or second day of shoot. So we were doing wild stuff with you, eating the pistachios, hiding, doing the eyes. So we really started big.
Yeah, we did.
And this is great. I love this, that she actually finds this contract. Because this is, so again, my other film that I'm always shooting is The Trial.
Right.
So,
which is interesting that we had Franz Kafka's portrait in
I
there.
especially had that put in there. Yes, I wonder if many people have told me they noticed his picture in the back there. Yeah, this is Jennifer. This is the first thing she did. So you can see she'd got into it big time. So it was, hi, I'm Jennifer Beals. Oh, hi, I'm Nicolas Cage. Right. And she was straight on top of you, biting you. And
drinking my blood right off the bat. And, of course, this...
that was her first line.
It's more of that animalism you were talking about. This,
of course, here, now we're talking about the Max Schreck. This is where he does the first real look when he opens the door on her.
I haven't found the right woman, that's all.
And I don't know where the sort of head moves came from on
And this
two
wonderful,
legs.
these two people, surreal. I couldn't do this in a movie again. I just said, let's put in people we met,
It's brilliant. I love it.
And the music all goes into it.
Yeah, I love all that.
And then all of a sudden, this, again, what I wanted to do was lighten the tone, because the next scene is going to be so horrific.
Yeah.
It's just too late, Alva.
Now, I don't know where the cuckoo clock head moves came from on Too Late.
But the hair is gone, the back is up. I mean, it is a kind of transformation.
Like that?
Yeah.
What is that?
I don't know. It's good, though.
Yeah.
But this is the John Cleese. Yeah, this is where it's sort of got a...
Yeah, right. That's what I was talking about Chaplin. It was like the it just sort of happened accidentally, you know.
That we didn't, you just...
No, it just...
because your shoes were slippery on
Yeah, but it became like slapstick almost.
I don't know if you remember what happened here. I'd arranged to shoot this scene coming up somewhere completely different, and we went down, we set it up, and I didn't like what I'd set. So I started looking for a new location, which is, it's the most terrible thing to do when you're filming. And I picked this literally 5 minutes later. I said, we've got to do it in the basement. And we shot this through the night
It's
till
great.
4 a.m.
I remember that.
And shooting late, it starts to make you go a bit kind of strange.
Yes.
And I think it really helps this scene. I mean, it's all interior at night. There's no need to shoot it at night. But we were, doing it at night because the original location was outside, which I'd scrapped. But I think it added something to the strange quality of the scene.
Well, night shoots...
Oh, that licking was horrendous, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's so horrendous that it's almost funny.
The floor, Alba. Me!
I was so frustrated with that gun on this day.
Was it electronic and it didn't go off or something?
Yeah, I was trying to...
Because you can't use real blanks because you can actually kill yourself with the wadding when it comes out, which is, I think, again, I was trying to explain to you.
Yeah.
It's the same problem with the bat.
Right.
That you were trying to kill yourself before I finished the movie, and I just wanted you alive till the end.
So, yeah, right.
At the end of the movie, you could do what you like.
Well, that's always the case, right?
And this weird thing here, where it did kind of work, where we put her in. I don't know if that was in the script, but it was kind of an idea. I think it was, wasn't it? We shot that close-up, a month later. Do you remember?
I vaguely remember us doing that.
Yeah, and you did a really weird thing there. To get that look, you stuck your fingers down your mouth to make yourself sick.
Oh, yeah, that's an old trick where you can get your eyes to water and flush your face so you get more color and you look more emotional.
Yeah, the gun wouldn't go off or something, would it not?
Yeah, the gun wouldn't go off here. And also, this is, again...
but when it did, it was great, because look at all the smoke that came out.
Yeah.
It looked like your head was smoking.
Yeah.
But I know they had huge problems because we couldn't use real anything in it.
And this, the cry...
Look at your hair. Look at it. It's all smoking.
And the cry here, I want to say boo-hoo in a way that worked emotionally. I was always trying to challenge myself. Like, can you get away with actually saying boo-hoo?
Yeah, and without it sounding childish.
Yeah.
But what he's done is so extraordinary that you can do that. It's always about the counterpoint, isn't it?
Yeah.
These things only work with counterpoint. I mean, I don't know if they all work, but I was always trying to counterpoint them to take the edge off them so they weren't...
Yeah, well, I agree with that. Counterpoint is always...
And sometimes it's funny and sometimes people don't get the joke.
Yeah.
I don't think many people got the joke in this scene because they just thought it was a rape. But, I made it, there's no flesh really. It's not real. You know what I mean? It's not a real rape.
Yeah. I got a lot of bad criticism for that.
That was the last shot of the day. Now, what happened? Do you remember what happened there?
No, what happened?
Well, you were running too fast and I couldn't catch up with you. And I said, can you run slow? You said, well, if you want me to run slow, I'm going to run like this. And that's what you did. You kind of ran like... And we were strobing through the bars. You said, well, don't shoot through the bars. Shoot somewhere else. And I said, well, I'll run like this then. And you ran... So you paid the price.
I had heard some story about a kid on his bicycle who was holding his hands around his neck, screaming, there are vampires, and running down the street. And that, as a child, that always stayed with my mind. And that's what I think got me to do that. With I'm a vampire,
I like it, but you got a lot of stick about it for what reason?
Well, because people thought it was over the top.
What, and the rest of the film was so subtle?
Right. I'm not really... See, over the top is one of those things that doesn't work with me because I don't believe in such a thing. I feel that it's just stylistic choices, and this was obviously a choice to use grand gesture and go bigger,
Also, the day will come when naturalism will die.
Well, yeah, naturalism will die and come back, or people will be more open to the idea that naturalism is, in fact, a style, just as this is a style.
And I think it's terribly limiting naturalism, because the best you can get is as close to reality as possible, and so many movies are really just trying to mirror reality. My feeling is that there's nowhere to go. There's no creative expression beyond it looking like a newsreel.
I've always thought that acting is, in the very nature that it is in fact an art form. Therefore, if you look at other art forms like painting, you have photorealism and you have surrealism, you have abstract. Why can't you do the same with film acting? And when we worked together, you caught me at that period when I was experimenting with that idea. I have since not done that, but...
But what is interesting that particular star hadn't been seen in the cinemas before. I mean, it had obviously in the past, but in terms of where we were. And after the movie came out, movies started to go into that big humor, dark humor. Batman, I remember when Tim made that, was very dark.
Yes.
And also very funny and very extreme. Yeah. And, I think we tried it out a little earlier. And this is another strange scene. What is he, testing his teeth, isn't he? I mean, some of these scenes were just like scenes, and we just did them, and they're kind of random, but they're interesting.
Yeah, well, I remember it being in the script, and always find it kind of humorous. You know, he's biting into his pillow.
And pillow biting, I don't know if it means the same here as it does in England.
But I don't know, what does it mean in England?
A pillow biter, it's... I think it's a term for a homosexual.
Oh, okay. Well, so there's some other underlying...
No, I don't think so. I don't know. But I'm sure... Again, what I think often is people can make what they like out of it. I love this when the light is too hot.
Yeah, that falls into the random thing you're talking about. Like, here is this guy just testing the light with his hand. I mean, this is really... He's now at his worst.
Oh, he's just cracked up. Now, I want to go back here right at the beginning. I don't know if you remember, we did a little test, or makeup test, and you came to see me. And do you remember what you had on?
Makeup test. No, I don't.
I think you'd been either working with or had been talking to Tom Waits.
Yeah, Tom was a friend of mine, still is.
And he has this little pencil moustache.
Oh, yeah.
And on the first day, it was actually the first day of shooting, you arrived on set with a pencil moustache. Do you remember that?
No, but that sounds very, very uncomfortable. What was I doing?
Well, you wanted the character to have a pencil moustache.
Throughout the whole movie?
Throughout the whole movie. And it was one of those mornings where everyone looks at you and they all look at me and everyone is silent and they go, you can see in their heads, they go, oh my God, what's Nic Cage done?
Oh, God.
So I came up to you and said, Nick, the moustache, I've not seen that. What's that about? And you said, well, I think that should be the character, and it was all that acting stuff. And I thought, God, I'm going to have to get, and I knew if I was head on, it wouldn't. So I said, well, when you put the teeth in later on, there's going to be a confusion with the moustache and the teeth, and you're going to kind of have trouble there. And you went, thank you for that. It's a very good point. And wiped off the moustache, and that was the end of the moustache.
That's unbelievable. I don't. So it was a pencil, like it was
like,
drawn on.
Yeah, like Tom Waits. Those are the teeth that. Crawling off. What is that all about?
I don't know. This is where we really went off the deep end here. I don't know.
But the point is that because he jumps on the desk in the first 20 minutes of the movie, you have to keep moving forwards. And these things are becoming more and more extreme. And the way he's looking at himself and. There's a great line here where he starts talking and she says, "Have you got a cold, Peter?"
Yeah. I think the crawling off the park bench was like it's almost like a sort of a sexual, he was so orgasmic about having the plastic fangs in his mouth that he was sort of like reduced to, an infantile stage.
I mean, just going back to the shop where he's got the choice of the really good-looking fangs, which we obviously could have had, and you could have bought the good-looking fangs that were all kind of brown, but he buys the cheap fangs because he's kind of mean as well. So he doesn't even want to look that good as a vampire. He kind of looks like a cheap vampire. It's a conscious character decision.
Well, he didn't have the money too, right? He couldn't afford the money.
That's right. In fact, there was a scene where he goes to the check money counter and he can't get any more money out, but I dropped the scene.
But even in the scene that you have, he's looking through his wallet and
There's nothing there.
He doesn't have enough to buy he has to take the plastic, the cheapie.
The
cheapie.
I love this, the Chinese guy saying, because again, that was all kind of like part of the mystical...
I like what you did there with her and this sort of young buck,
It's just all of a sudden she's got a life, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Because she's a very... This was in... Do you remember what we did here?
We actually caught a pigeon.
No, I had to drug the pigeon, so you can't catch pigeons. I mean, if you run around, pigeons just fly away. These pigeons are drugged.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, how else do you think you caught it? Did you think, hey, I'm a really great actor, I can catch pigeons?
I don't know what I thought.
No, we had them. They were all humanely drugged, and they lived after and had happy lives after this.
What were they drugged with?
Just some sort of people. I remember the reaction. There's people really upset about this. They thought that you really did eat a pigeon or something. No, there was just some sort of.
It is disturbing because there's that weird belch or something.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. But I think, again, it's not a real dead pigeon there. It's just a fake one. But people, I think from what you've done in the past, people had, in their minds, seen you eat the pigeon.
Well, because of eating the cockroach.
Yeah, and people have said to me, he bites a pigeon's head off, doesn't he, in that film? And I said, no, he never bites a head off.
Well, I have to say that it's at this point that I should probably say that Ozzy Osbourne was an influence, because I heard the story about him biting the dove's head off, and so that created like shockwaves in the entertainment industry. And I thought if I ate the cockroach, it could do the same thing.
And here is this pathetic man now getting under the couch and going to sleep. I mean, just...
this is a great idea.
Yeah, I don't know if it was in the script. I think we just made it up, or I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
And I realised when I'd made the movie, or just as I was shooting it, I realised that him going to sleep, it was like a really bad cut to him waking up. So one morning, we just went out and shot all this stuff of New York. And it came out so well, that's why we used it at the beginning of the movie. And this is my sort of Gershwin thing in the middle. I did it actually purely to make sense of him falling asleep, but it's interesting how it's a little dedication to a city I love so much. And
also a lot of the movie takes place indoors in different smaller spaces, so it's nice to get outside and see the city.
You've shot there before?
Yes, I've made actually quite a few films there, and which is strange since I'm really from Los Angeles, but I've made 5 or 6.
I mean, things like this helicopter coming through the sun, we just happen to be there, and it's like Apocalypse Now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think that, what you see here is a director that's really devoted to making the best possible movie he can make. Really taking the time and the care to get what he needs. That's what I get from that, especially with your budget.
Well, it's interesting. The money doesn't often give you what you want. I think it's about a determination on everybody's point of view to get it. Yeah. And it never seemed like we didn't have any money.
Yeah.
We never seemed to... I know we were short of money for everything. But I think because everybody took the right attitude. Like, I remember you didn't have a trailer on this.
Right.
And having that attitude, nobody was expecting anything. So, I remember we did our own catering.
Yes. Yeah, I recall that.
The operator, the camera operator, did the catering.
Now, do you remember this scene coming up with the boy, the bouncer, or someone wouldn't let me in, and you said, well, just slug him in the stomach? I was in a very strange mood this night. I don't know if you remember.
I like it.
But I remember you said, can you take a punch? And... that guy. You said, can you take a punch? Well, then go ahead and take it. I really hit him.
He does look pretty nasty.
Yeah, because we wanted to make it look real, and I guess I didn't want to hit him, and you said, no, just go ahead and hit him. It was the most interesting direction I think I've ever had. Now, this, of course, is, orgasmic, where he's there with all these necks and...
this is extraordinary, because what I wanted to do was create a place that he wouldn't look out of place.
Yeah.
And everyone is, it's the wild party 80s. And this club was I looked at every club in New York, and it's actually a subway station that was turned into a club. And it's got a great atmosphere here.
It's called The Tunnel, and I think it's now been reopened, which I was very excited about. My brother saw this movie, and he said that was really a scary moment. You looked like a white shark there with those teeth. It was like he actually thought it was really creepy.
What was, again, for a movie that didn't have any money, we got 300 extras here for free. They all loved being in the movie, and each person is hand-picked.
Yeah.
I had 300 Polaroids, and my team did such a great job.
They did.
Well, they all look, again, they look a bit dated, a bit 80s, but later on we used them to great, there we are. It's a real club. I love this shot, next one coming up. For some reason, he just looks so... out of it. You know when you see crazy people in clubs?
Yeah.
He is that man.
Yeah, he's the guy you don't
want to go near him.
You don't want to sit next to you. And this scene coming up is so theatrical. I love that.
Do you know who that girl is?
Yeah.
It's a guy called Larry Cohen. He's a
right.
director of Return to Salem's Lot. So that's his daughter. And
I remember.
She knew the scene, and she was really game for it, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. But this whole banter between us is almost like, look at that.
It's like a mime show.
It's like silent film acting,
but she's drugged out of her mind, so she doesn't care what's going on. And he's
yeah,
nuts.
it's
so
perfect.
So the two of them are a perfect match. It's a very, very disturbing and odd little scene, this.
Yeah, it is, because then it all goes terribly wrong.
Yeah, I can't remember what the motivations were. I think it was just like touch her, feel her, try and get her breasts, and then it gets real.
Yeah.
She really hates that. She says, like, I'll play the game.
Yeah, and this is so sinister, the idea of... Did the plastic fangs come out of the mouth?
Yeah. But what's interesting, when we set this up and I got the effects guy, he said, I hope you're not one of those directors that keep saying more blood. More blood. I said, no, I'm subtle. I'm from London. So as soon as we're shooting it and you come away, the first thing I yell, I'm screaming, more blood, more blood. And you'll see here, I'm just shouting, I want more blood. So I fell into the trap of the more blood.
Well, this really disturbed people, didn't it?
Yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah.
And it's the intercutting with the people dancing, the young, with this kissing. We're just lucky we got these shots. I must say my editor did a marvellous job of, look, they are, more blood, I'm screaming, it's pumping, they got a little pump and they're pumping it out there. And you put the teeth back in, it's just horrendous.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, look at the way it's set as well. I wanted to make it look very beautiful and horrendous at the same time.
You did, and it's sort of a very strange mixture of comedy.
And have you been in a place
horror.
where the drunk comes in and starts to throw up and you want to get out? All these people want to leave the room because of this awful person.
Yeah. And this now is interesting.
The film becomes more extreme now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Again, we're moving up a level. How could we move a level? But we do.
Yeah.
And also it becomes more surreal. The imagery of what he's seeing is more surreal. And then there are realities.
That's right.
It really does start. I wanted it to start really flipping from reality to surreal moments.
I think he did that,
and she's good in this. I think again an interesting performance.
Yeah, she's really kind of creepy in the next scene where she's in denial, or not whatever it is that you want it to be, but that she acts like she doesn't know him, or in fact she doesn't know him. We don't know. But then there's like this weird little smile in her eye.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting when it's coming. And I think she said to me, I really want to hate this guy. I'm going to spit all over him. I don't think she told you she was going to spit at you, did she?
No.
No.
It's sad,
which worked
though.
Nice, though.
Yeah, it does work nice.
Because she's now taking complete control of him.
Don't touch me.
You are with me.
Well, it doesn't look like it. Does it, Donald?
Donald, this guy, this Mr. Smoothie, I love him.
Doesn't appear that way.
I remember we talked about this heart thing a lot when you start pumping your heart.
Yeah.
It was the one time where I said, I don't know if it's a bit over the top, that, Nick. And you said, why? Why is it over the top? I said, well, I don't know. Just maybe it's a bit... a bit... And then you kind of throw yourself down with more convulsion.
I don't know what it is, Robert. It's just...
But this is interesting. You've had all this, then all of a sudden you're in a real club and there's this mad guy who comes in where all these people are dancing. You see people like this and they start screaming mad things like, and he says, look, this girl's a vampire, and all these people dancing. Who is this mad person? And I like the reality of this all of a sudden.
That's just so whacked.
Yeah. How are you? He's asking.
There's a little exorcist like there.
Definitely. See, this is great. I love this.
Yeah.
Because, this guy could be completely mad, and then you start swearing and nice and more obscenities. And I love this with the strobe, and it's all so mad.
Yeah, there she goes.
Yeah.
What's going on?
She does a great... And see the way she looks at everyone.
Yeah.
You start to think as a viewer, well, are the filmmakers trying to tell me she is a vampire? Isn't she? And they don't know, and we don't know.
Right, and I like that.
I'm a vampire. I can prove it. You got a gun. You got a gun. Fuck off me.
This is all very odd.
Please.
Better get back in your coffin, buddy.
Yeah, well, see, that could happen. Someone could just go completely...
But you hear this guy is like from Eastern Europe, is a bit of the old, get that back into the coffin.
Yeah.
And this, again, using more obscenities. It's wonderful how you...
Yeah.
This was great that we got the sun. This is terrific. I think I did time it exactly so it would be there, but it does look like it just happened, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. Right in his face.
But again, it's still kind of comical, the way you're running around there.
Yeah.
So it's very disturbing, this mixture.
It's the whole movie has that going on.
And then we go straight into very naturalistic, reality of lower middle class.
Yes.
First generation South Americans, and it's like a whole other tone here.
Yeah. And did you have that all thought out, or do you feel like...
Oh, very much so. I really wanted this, to be as different to the stuff I did with you, so that, again, what happens is everybody sympathizes with her and the brother, and they just want rid of you.
Yeah.
They want you off the picture quick.
At this point.
But that's the fascination, is how long can an audience last with you? And they've got more to go, because you start getting crazier from here on.
Yeah. They want him put down at this point.
It's like a rabid dog doing tricks still.
Yeah. But the trick was also to try to find a way to take this sort of hideous and very sadistic man and also try to find some way of making it sympathetic.
I think that's the real trick. Whether we did it or not, who knows? But there is a certain sympathy for him, because now he's again, it's funny, but there were people in New York doing this.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there were people... I've watched a lot of mad people, and everything you did was happening on the streets.
Oh, I can tell you this is...
These two are real hobos. Those were two real hobos on the street.
Yeah.
I'm a vampire.
These guys, they were real. They didn't know what was going... I shot that on a long lens. They didn't know we were filming. They just...
That's genuinely mad behavior there. All that weird body movement.
And of course, this is all this church stuff, which...
Yeah.
Again, it's a strange little sequence which has no relevance to anything.
This is a Ukrainian church?
Yeah. Again, it was always using the Eastern European influence of the vampire theme. But again, people on the streets have mad people just coming up to them.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, as far out as this seems, there are people that do this on the street all the time.
Absolutely.
Especially in that city, as you were saying, at that time.
Yeah. I don't know whether this is a little capsule of time. I'm not sure if it's like that in New York. I haven't worked there for a few years, whether it's like that. But this was down on the Lower East Side, which was very rough then. I think it's all been cleaned up. But this is, again, this is the way it looked.
This is new now, right?
What do you mean?
This wasn't in the other cut.
I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe it wasn't.
I really like that. I've not seen that before. Talk about the tortures of the damned.
But, there are plenty of people walking around stopping the traffic. There's, this was disco death. We had to come up with a New York Post headline.
Yeah. I love the talking to the wall, which that really is, that pretty much says it all.
Do you know it's the hardest location in the whole movie to find, the wall you bump into? Because it's nothing.
Yeah.
To try and actually make it something, I looked at 200, 300 walls before I could find the right wall. I wanted it in the right setting. Because it's got character, this wall. It's got a little thing on it because you're talking to a character here.
But the wall, when you start talking to walls,
Yeah.
you know you're really, You had to put a little foam pad there.
Yeah, because you really hit it big time.
Yeah.
But I like this surreal quality that's going on now. This is great.
Peter, you wanted very much to make an earlier appointment, so what's up?
You see the old look, you know.
And I said to you, stand up on the sill behind, and you didn't question, you didn't say why. You just said, sure, that's a good idea. I couldn't get actors to do that today. They'd say, well, what's the motivation? And the motivation is, it just is interesting.
Yeah. But now you really get to see the transformation between the early Peter and the later.
Well, that's it. That's what's so lovely about these intercuts here. But you see, this is the reason I wanted you up there was to get the depth of the city, which was, I thought, was like your mind. That was the kind of the depth of your mind.
Yes, but I mean real love. Just sweep me off my feet. A big L. What?
Yeah, this intercut here works very well, the way you're talking, and then there's the surreal reply that you think you're getting.
Yeah.
I know what you're thinking.
You're thinking, sure, let's see him go out in the jungle and try to find love. He'll come crawling back here in no time. I know it isn't easy, but I know it's possible. Hell, I see it around me every day.
It almost looks like a back projection, doesn't it?
It really does.
It's extraordinarily strange. But I wanted it to be a little stranger than when you were normally in the psychiatrist's room.
It's like he's almost floating.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Holy shit, man, I'll be happy.
And this is the big confession, and she's just laughing at you.
Yeah.
But I think it's serious stuff. That's the real serious stuff. That's the movie.
Yeah.
What he's saying there is the movie, is what it's all about.
Wanting the love.
Yeah, it's just about love.
And the lack of it, just the lack of love and the loneliness.
And you see, you read about these guys going nuts, doing horrendous things, of shooting up. I think he's like one of those characters, except the way he's taken it out is through becoming this fantasy character.
Yeah, which I think could happen.
Well, people use... let's be straight here. I think a lot of the horrible things that happen are fantasy characters that people have seen in movies, and they see people doing shootouts, and they recreate it for real.
Yeah.
So there is a great dark side to what we do sometimes in making movies. But I think laced with the humour here, it takes the edge off the darkness.
This is interesting.
I love this. Here she is now.
Yeah. Now, this character that you cast here, where did she come from?
What do you mean, come from?
Sharon. How did you find her, the actress?
How did I find her? I don't know. I just think I saw a load of girls, and I just thought she was the most kind of sweet, charming,
right.
Totally the opposite to Jennifer. That's what I wanted to get.
Sharon.
Yeah.
This is
sort of. I'm just curious because, like, the fantasy idea of the girl would be perfect for Peter,
Horseback riding, Vivaldi, and long weekends in the country.
Those are exactly the same things that I like. Wait a minute. We walked along while bright and red uprose the rising sun.
Wordsworth.
Yeah, I remember you wanted to use a little Wordsworth, but it was like the most, the most banal line from a Wordsworth poem, but appropriate because of the vampire.
Written in the stars, yes. Hey, do you like Japanese food, Sharon?
It's the best. So refreshing.
You see that? We're on exactly the same wavelength.
Fantastic.
But also, I think what's great is when you start to tell her that you've murdered people and that, and she goes, "Oh, that's okay."
I always forget.
Yes, Peter?
Well, I did rape someone a couple nights ago. Girl at the office, I just lost control.
It's just a little id release, no use to worry.
I think people found that quite offensive as well.
Yeah.
But again, I think it's being able to take the humour to the edge, isn't it?
But it is offensive, but we wouldn't want to make it not offensive because then we would be glamorizing it. You
Absolutely.
know?
Just spit it out, Peter.
This is the darkest part.
Well, the fact is, I did murder someone last night. I turned into a vampire.
Her reaction as well. I wanted to keep her in the background.
It's really good.
Every day in this city.
She's really funny there.
Stop.
Yeah, I guess, but the police and everything, what if they find me?
You stop worrying
This is great,
and
Helene.
just get on with your big
You know, it's like a dream, isn't it?
It is.
It's like a bad dream.
It is.
big luggage carrying on. Now just get out of here.
And look at his face. It's so kind of hurt, but, oh, well, okay, well, thanks for helping me.
Yeah.
And the dream that psychiatrists can just sort all this out and you just meet a love and you...
Yeah, everything's fine.
But I suppose really just in the structure of it is to build it up so that things are going to get so bad for him that you needed that kind of little bit of an upbeat scene.
This is scary.
Yeah, talking to nobody.
Yeah, but you can see someone doing that in New York, don't you think, Robert? Like
I think I based it on somebody I'd seen that week doing this, and I'd seen so many people talking to themselves in the streets.
Yeah. And then when he gets angry here,
Yes.
I mean, I've walked away when I've seen that, you know?
Yeah, there are lots of guys who are shouting at mythical people, aren't there?
Yeah.
And or they're shouting at the government or somebody's done bad things to them.
Yes.
Again, all these people walking past had no idea what was happening.
I'm really glad you put this all back in.
See, all these people are real. We just shot this without anybody knowing you were. So they take no notice of you. That's what's interesting.
It is interesting.
No notice whatsoever.
There he is. No, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I'm so very unhappy.
Yeah, this is terrific. We're actually arguing with her.
Yeah. Yeah, here, this is really kind of, for me, it was kind of creepy.
Sharon.
God damn it! What did I just say?
So you could see somebody doing that,
Yeah.
you know? She doesn't like it.
Now, what was interesting, we tried to rewrite the end about 100 times to come up with it, because they all kept saying to me, the ending is so dark, we can't have this end. So I think
remember that.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And we had 1,000 scenes, and none of them worked, did they?
No, we had to go with this.
This is really out there.
Yeah, there we go, the Jagger move. I don't know what that is. It's like very, very out there.
But again, it's, to keep it up, to keep the whole thing going.
Yeah.
It needs all that, otherwise, how else would you have kept it going?
No, I mean, exactly. I mean, I love all this stuff.
That I would ever marry a loudmouth pig.
That's great. What's that thing with the hand?
I don't. It was like one of my moves. At
But
the
it's
time.
great.
I had choreographed all that in my hotel room. I thought I was going to do this, do that, all this stuff. We rehearsed it the night before.
Yeah, and I just said, this is great, just do
You
it.
want to leave? Good. Fine.
I did this thing with the plank where
yeah.
it became like an extension of my,
Your penis.
Yeah.
Which works.
Yeah, because that's what it was, really.
But also, everybody's got to hate you for what this... Because he does this pretty convincing, this guy, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. And I remember thinking to myself that I...
Well, it comes in with leave me the fuck alone. And that,
I remember thinking like, here we go with the vomit.
Yes.
This is so extreme.
but it's vomit that's not vomit, which is great. It's ectoplasm that's never there.
Yeah. And I remember when I decided, I got to die. How do you die? It's one of the biggest moments for any film actor to make a decision. I knew I just did not want to die quietly. I was sick of quiet little deaths.
Yeah.
Natural, quiet little deaths are such bullshit. So I thought to myself, well, yeah, you scream. If somebody, and he obviously wants to die.
But people shriek when they see this. It looks so real. And I think it was you, and the blood is quite good, but your screaming makes everyone really think it's a bit of acting. It's a terrible piece of cheap effects we did.
Yeah, but
your acting is so good that people really do think you're getting killed there.
Well, because of the loud scream,
Yeah,
and
it's a beautiful mixture of the two things.
And I love the hands here. Sort of, I don't know, I was sort of accidental, but it does seem like his spirit with the camera is leaving the room now. Maybe he's finally free.
I think actually we did it many times, and I did it, and I said to you, do different hand movements, because I said it will give it. I said there's nothing worse than a dead body that's still.
Right.
It's got there's no emotion there.
And with the camera rising and with the hands opening, it comes across that there's like a release.
Yeah.
But now with Jennifer coming back at the end, then I'm not so sure he's been freed or released. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I don't know quite why I put this in. I just sort of thought it gave it another edge. I don't know whether it does or not. What do you think?
Personally, I think that once he dies and the hands open, that I think that was it. That he was freed from everything.
I think you could be right.
Anyway, well, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad we had a chance to talk about this after, 11 years?
Yeah, and what's strange is, I don't know how, all the other movies and things I've shot in between, I don't remember them as well as this.
Yeah.
I can remember every day of shooting this. And I remember my agent coming to see me while we were shooting. We were on the streets of New York. And he was a very, very hardened agent, had seen a lot. And he walked up to me and said, I don't know how you're doing this. He said, this is the most chaotic thing I've ever seen in my life. How do you get anything shot? And I said, well, what are you talking about? It's going really well. He said, this shoot is a nightmare.
I remember I was under so much pressure to try to get it right and to make it a good performance, and I wasn't much of a drinker. But I remember one night I had a martini, and it was a gimlet, and everything just relaxed, and I felt so much better because I was so wound up to try to deliver. I don't know. I think I cared more about this performance than any other performance in my career to get it right. I don't. That's just where my head was at the time.
Well, it's there, and it's there forever. And
yeah,
seeing it again, I love it. And I don't think I could ever do that again with anybody.
I don't think I could either. I think we're too old for that now.
Yeah, definitely.
Took a lot of energy out of both of us. Well, anyway, I just sign off. I'm Nic Cage, and thanks for watching and hearing us.
Robert Bierman. And thanks again, and thanks, Nick, for getting together with me. It's been, well, as I said, we haven't met and talked about this film since we made it, so it's been great.
Well, we'll talk more at dinner tonight.
Yeah.